Hi again. We're on page 29 of The Three Worlds by Nelson Barbour and JW Russell, and we've just spent some time considering the two gotcha elements of their good news. What is the message of the Adventist movement in general, and of Nelson Barbour and JW Russell in particular? Well, it has to do with time, and it has to do with prophecy, but specifically it has to do with interpreting the deeply divisive and problematic books of Daniel and Revelation, which have been mangled so many times over the centuries that, as we pointed out, John Calvin didn't even bother to write a commentary on Revelation. So Barbour and Russell seem very confident that they can explain the mysteries. So that's the first gotcha element. We are the only ones who have been given the light into the mysteries of Revelation, and we are the only ones who can unseal for you the book of Daniel, which even Daniel couldn't unseal. And we're the only ones who understand the peculiarity of this presence of the Lord, that it's actually two stages. And we are not therefore to see the coming of the Lord in glory first. We are to experience his presence by interpreting the signs of the times. So you're bound to these people. This is Barbour and Russell, and of course that's the way it is in most cults, that they bind you with a claim that they're the only ones who have the light to be able to interpret these deeper biblical documents. So here Barbour goes on with the analysis of the word presence and connects it to a source which witnesses know about, and as a matter of fact they purchased the rights to this source. So here's how he goes into analyzing the answer to the question, what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the harvest at the end of the world? Of course, that's Matthew 24 verse 3. Coming often means presence. This word in the above text, that is Matthew 24:3, is parousia and means presence. It occurs in 2 Corinthians 10 verse 10, where it says, for his letters are powerful, but his bodily presence, parousia, is weak. And in Philippians 2 verse 12, as you have always obeyed, not as in my parousia, that presence only, but now much more in my absence. And 2 Peter 3 verse 4, in the Emphatic Diaglott reads, knowing this first, that in the last of the days scoffers will come with scoffing and saying, where is the promise of his presence? For from the time the fathers fell asleep, all things continue in this way from the beginning. No one would be so simple as to ask for a promise of his coming. The Bible is full of such promises, and we should point to John 14 verse 3. If I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again. Or to Acts 1 verse 11. This same Jesus shall so come in like manner as you have seen him go. They might not believe in the promise of his coming, but they do not ask, where is there such a promise? But there are scoffers not far from you who ask with a sneer, where is there a promise of his presence, while as yet all things continue as they were from the beginning? And this is just what so many are offended at, because we teach the presence of Christ, while as yet all things continue as they were. So apparently they're reacting, Barbour and Russell are, to criticism of their position, which of course is a departure from historical understanding of these very texts. And you would perhaps like to know where this promise is found. I will answer you. Matthew 24 verse 37 is one of these promises. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the parousia, presence of the Son of Man, be. They were eating and drinking, planting and building, marrying and giving in marriage, as they had been from the beginning, and knew not until the flood came. They did know when the flood came, and they will now know when every eye shall behold him. But his parousia is nowhere compared to the flood, but to the days of Noah, the days that were before the flood, while the ark was preparing, according to 1 Peter 3:20, while everything continued as from the beginning. And so, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the Son of Man. Now he puts stress upon the word days. Luke 17, verse 26. In the days of Noah, they were planting and building and knew not. If he indeed comes to reap the earth and gather the fruit, before he comes with all his golden grain, you can see how the above can be true, and the harvest end before the world will know anything of it, and how his parousia, or the days of the Son of Man, can be compared to the days of Noah, while they were planting and building. The days of the Son of Man is the time of the harvest, the time in which he is preparing for the destruction now coming, when he will tread the winepress alone. The above being true, you can see that a time must come when we shall be in the time of the harvest, and the angels gathering the children of the wicked one into organizations, while yet the children of the kingdom are about their business in the field and mill. At that time, and that time has already commenced. Let me read that again. And that time has already commenced. The harvest, or end of the age, began on the 10th day of the 7th month in 1874. That's even more precise than we're used to. The 10th day of the 7th month, 1874. And this time of the harvest measures 3.5 years. If you ask how we know this, I answer by taking heed to the sure word of prophecy, which shines as a light in a dark place. If you desire to investigate, take some steps to that end. Either obtain and read all the evidences, or come out. Get this one. Come out from organized bundles, which are endeavoring to separate you from present truth. And hear each one for himself. That is, come out from among them and hear each one from himself, but of course from us. But if you have no desire, no drawing of the Spirit that will enable you to search as men search for hid treasures, and feel spiritually rich, and that you have now all that is necessary and have need of nothing. In other words, these are all references, of course, to the Laodicean church age, which Russell also taught, that they were in that 7th age, the church of Laodicean age, even then. I counsel you to buy thyself, lest that day come upon you unawares. So one has to ask the question, where are you going to buy that thyself? Ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that the day should overtake you as a thief. But ye scoffers who say, where is the promise of his presence? For all things continue as they were from the beginning, are in darkness, even though you have the round lake sanctification, which must have been some revival that was going on in that era, or from any other cause, feel that you are rich and increasing goods, have need of nothing. The test of true brotherhood in Christ is not feeling or profession, but walking in the light of present truth. And whether we are now in the time of the harvest, or it does not come for 10,000 years, when it does come, when this transition period that is to separate the tares and wheat and usher in the destruction of the day of the Lord does come, the true church will be in the light on that particular subject, and all others in darkness. Else 1 Thessalonians 5, 1-5 has no apparent meaning. And of course that's the text where you find the peace and security reference. And of course Barbour and Russell are finding another reference that, for some at least, will not be in the darkness when the day comes, and that day being linked to the harvest and also to the invisible presence, this unique teaching. So did you note a few paragraphs back, though, this reference to the children of the wicked one being gathered into organizations? But the children of the kingdom, and this continued in the days of Russell, were independent organizations. Yeah. So Satan is gathering all of those in darkness into organizations, but those who are in the light, that is those who have present truth, will be able to avoid the darkness. They'll be able to stay in the light. So here's a third aspect of the gotcha good news of Barbour and Russell, and many others too. We are not only the only ones who can interpret prophecy rightly, we are the ones who can unfold for you the mysteries of Revelation and unpack or unseal the book of Daniel. We are the only ones who understand that the coming of the Lord is an invisible presence, and now we are the only ones who are in the light of present truth. And if you want, therefore, present truth, you will have to come to us. Now, of course, that's still with the Watchtower, even though they don't use that text from where they get present truth in Peter. And how does it play out? Well, it plays out that you need us to understand what truth is in the last days. There's a special message for the last days, and we are the only ones who know what that message is. So I'll link to you the series we did on Thessalonians, Peace and Security, the first one of that series, and a video we did on Daniel 11 and 12, and that is entitled as JW Org Unsealed Daniel and Solved Revelation's Mystery.